Are you looking to grow revenues, increase profitability, or obtain financing? If so, you came to the right place.
Running a business is all about leadership. How do you become a better leader? Learn from the successful entrepreneurs and business owners how to lead your organization more effectively. That's why we created Leadership Live at 805, Talking Small Business, to help you succeed with your host, Andrew Frazier, Business Growth Pro and CFO and founder of the Small Business Pro University. Every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're joined by experienced entrepreneurs and business owners who share their secrets to success via live stream. Also, every Friday morning, we release a new podcast episode. Either way, you will learn about developing your business leadership skills from our roster of highly performing guest experts. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbprou.com.
Good evening and welcome back to Leadership Live at 805. I'm your host, Andrew Frazier, and really looking forward to hanging out with you this evening and talking about my favorite topic, small business. As you know, your business can only go as far as you're prepared to lead it. So it's key for you to learn as much as possible and to become the best leader possible so that you can move your business forward further and faster. So that's really why we created Leadership Live at 805. That's what it's all about. It's really just a conversation with business experts, thought leaders, people with a lot of experience and expertise so that you can learn from them about how they've succeeded and how they've met with challenges so that you can take that away and become a better leader and be more successful with your business. Today, we're going to be talking about an entrepreneur's journey and really going for, getting venture capital financing for the venture. A lot of people are always looking for financing, and it always seems like it would be great to get venture capital or private equity. But many times we don't really understand what it really takes to do that. So I think delving into this with someone who's actually been through the process will be very illuminating. So my guest tonight is Calvin Reed, and he's been an entrepreneur for a long time. But one of the key things is he was one of the founders of a company that had the first cable franchise in Newark, New Jersey, which is huge. So look forward to chatting with him about that experience. And let me bring him on real quick now. Hey, Calvin, how are you doing this evening?
Good evening.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad to have you here hanging out and really looking forward to just learn a little bit more about your experience, how you were able to be successful and sort of what it took, because it's not necessarily an easy thing that you accomplished. So definitely looking forward to that.
Well, first, let me say, thank you for having me on tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to share a bit of what my journey has been like, and perhaps how there were ways in which I was able to succeed where others perhaps have not been able to. One of the things I would probably start out with is a little bit about my background.
Okay.
I'm from the neighborhood. I grew up in Newark, New Jersey. I was raised after my early years in Newark in East Orange and Montclair. But when I finished college, I came back to East Orange and became the deputy mayor of the city at the age of 21. So I was thrust into a situation where I had to be responsible for a lot of individuals, and I had a lot of managerial and leadership roles that I had to perform, and I was still basically an infant at the time in terms of business, But that experience taught me how to deal with people on a one-to-one basis and to set goals for their achievement in the roles that they were assigned. And also, I had to begin to understand what my role was as a manager and a mover of people and opportunities in the city of East Orange at the time. I stayed in East Orange for some time. I worked as a city planner, senior city planner. I helped write the first master plan for the city. After that, though, I decided that my time in the public sector was over, and it was time for me to start doing some things that could really begin to benefit me financially, as I was beginning to grow a family at the same time, and the resources afforded one in the public sector really weren't going to be sufficient to grow or nurture what became a very large family. I have 5 children. So it was going to take some resources to get those things done. And I decided the best way to get that done for me anyway was to become entrepreneurial. And the opportunity for me to become entrepreneurial first arose when I was working as a corporate research analyst at Doubleday. And Doubleday allowed me to become their in-house expert on cable television, the emerging field of cable television. So I was learning the business as the business was growing. Cable television at the time was community antenna television, which was the way in which neighborhoods and communities who had no access to over-the-air broadcasting could receive television. And the way they did that was they would put a large television antenna on the highest peak near where that community existed, and they would run wires from that antenna into people's homes. And that's how the term community antenna television came into being. And that's as what we know now as cable television, which is you get it from satellites now as well as from wires. But when we built it in Newark, there was a number of things that we had to do in order to get the franchise itself. The franchise was up for bid. In order to participate in the bid process, you had to have a business plan. You had to have the confidence of the city council that you and your group could, in fact, if they awarded you the franchise, you could, in fact, build the cable system for the city of Newark. Now, what did that take? In order for us to convince the city council and in order for us to convince our investors that we had the ability and the expertise to construct a cable television system, we had to first have a business plan. And it took us about 2 years of actually developing our business plan, and probably 3 years before the development of our business plan and the actual funding of our business plan became a reality. And there were several iterations of that business plan along the way. It was a long hill up, trust me. It was not an easy journey. There were many pitfalls. But the one thing I learned about that journey in particular was that you, one, have to be persistent, and you have to ask people who know more than you what you're not doing right. You have to say to someone, for instance, who's just told you, I'm not going to fund you. And you have to say to them, excuse me, I understand you're not going to fund me, but why aren't you funding me? What isn't in my business plan? What don't I have? What haven't I told you that you need to hear that would have helped you make a better decision for me? And you got to be prepared to, hear no a lot of times. But every time you hear no, you modify your plan and you try to address the issues that you think that will next time get you a better solution for your problem, which is raising funds.
Okay. Let me ask you some questions about it, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So, you mentioned that, you had to develop credibility for being able to do the project. And a big piece of it was your business plan and, of course, financing. So who did you go to first for financing, and what was the result?
Well, interestingly, what I did was I utilized, because while we were beginning to develop the cable company, I was still working as a research analyst at Doubleday. And so I used the resources that were made available to me at Doubleday to basically grow our business. So I got to speak with a gentleman whose name was Paul Kagan. Paul Kagan at the time was the dean of cable television in America. And because I had the imprimatur of Doubleday that I could call from, he gave me all kinds of information because he thought that perhaps he would get some consulting through Doubleday to assist them with the development of some cable projects that they might have in mind. And I certainly didn't allow him to think otherwise. I certainly told him that, yes, we were considering cable, and it was something we were looking at very, very strongly. So he opened up not only his information to me, but he also made me aware of others in the field in my area, in our area, in the New York metro area, who were also involved with cable television. And so we met Swap-On Bose through that relationship. Swap-On Bose was a cable engineer, and he was the one that actually designed our cable system. And he did that on a dream, because he bought into our dream. Our dream was we could build cable in Newark. We convinced him that we had the politics to get that done. And he said, okay, I'm on board. And that's it was more like being the Pied Piper. We got a lot of folks to buy into our dream, but we had a dream that was, we made everyone feel that dream was realizable because we listened to everybody and we included everybody in the process. Nobody could make a suggestion that was disregarded. Nobody knew everything. We all knew that we were learning. So anybody who came onto the team, first of all, it was the vetting process was strong. We didn't let just anybody come on the team. You had to be somebody who was committed to the process and who really believed that we, in fact, could make it happen. And there were folks who dropped by the wayside. They were believers, and then they lost Jesus. So that happens. And that's okay too, because everybody is not going to get to the end of the journey. Some folks you're going to lose some folks, but that's okay, because you'll get some new people. And at the end of the day, as long as you keep pushing towards your goal, you will be able to actualize it. But like I said, it's not for the weak of heart. You got to be strong. I can remember one time, my partner and I, we had $50 in the bank account, and it was Christmas time. And we were debating about how we were going to provide Christmas presents for our wives. And I said, well, we should split the money. We got, 25 apiece. He said, yeah, but your wife's working. I said, I can't borrow money from my wife to buy her a Christmas present. So we decided I'd take 20 and he'd take 30, and and we both got Christmas presents, very meager Christmas presents, but presents nonetheless for our wives. But those were small sacrifices because we were close to the goal. Then we were close to having it happen. I mean, we knew that all we needed was a couple of extra pieces. So we found one when we found MESBIC. The MESBIC are minority investment enterprises, small business and minority investment opportunities. It's like a group of investment bankers who say that they're going to invest in minorities and small business enterprises. So that's what the MESBICs are. And there's a series of MESBICs across the country, and they invest in all kinds of different entrepreneurial projects. Some do media, and like CENTCOM also invested in, I think, Radio One, which is a Black-owned radio network across the country. So they function in the media space, but there are other MESBICs that function in other areas as well. So that's, and the MESBIC the MESBICs gave us what's called the seed capital. They gave us the money we needed to buy some more engineering opportunity, to do some more research, to put together a package that we could leave on someone's desk that looked like it was professional, and that showed what our story was, and that we in fact did have the understanding and the expertise to get this thing done. Then we found through another contact, a engineering firm that also believed in us, that said that they would front part of the money to begin the actual construction of the cable system if in fact we got the franchise. It was no real risk to them other than some time, because had we not gotten the franchise, they would not have had to have, there was no skin on the table for them, but they were willing to say, listen, we'll stand up and say, we'll provide your engineering. If you get the franchise, we got the deal. So that was kind of an easy one. And that happened. But again, that didn't happen without, us having to pay some dues as well. For instance, you would think that the telephone company whose poles we were going to have to use to construct our system would be someone that would be helpful to us. Well, they weren't. They basically took advantage of us. They knew we didn't know what we were doing, or that we were learning to do what we had to do. And so, rather than saying, hey guys, all you need to do is such and such, they would let us learn from, we have to go A through Z on the learning curve. And then they say, oh yeah, well, yeah, we could have told you that earlier, but by that time you might have spent $5,000, so everything was tuition. There was no deal that was done that we didn't have to pay to get done, but that's okay too, because at the end we learned, from the ground, from the bottom line up, exactly what it was going to take to get it done. And then, there was a lot of decisions that we had to make once we got the franchise about what kind of system were we going to put up, what kinds of equipment were we going to build, what kind of satellite dishes were we going to use, what kind of head-in. The head-in is the system that you have in place for distributing the cable throughout the network. So there was a lot of technical things that had to be done. And then, of course, we had to be able to get out to the people and sell the cable. So it was a huge enterprise. And at one point, we probably had about 200 people that worked for us. And all of the people were from Newark, or at least had roots in Newark. And that was an important part for us as well.
Okay, I mean, it's a huge legacy from.
Well, it was fun.
Yeah, at the time.
I mean, at the end of the day, it was really fun. I mean, I remember at one point we had our pictures, and most folks don't. I'm going to date myself. Some folks may remember there was a newspaper called The Village Voice,
Okay.
And we were on the front page of the Village Voice. I was like, wow, we've made it. And then, that was the beginning of just some other opportunities for us, because once we established that we could build cable in Newark, we were also able to get the cable television franchise for the city of South Orange, and the cable franchise, and we assisted in the acquisition of the cable franchise for Jersey City. So at one point, we control the electronic communication resource for two of the largest cities in the state, and we probably could have gotten one or two others, but the powers that be were not really happy about the progress that we were making. So they brought burdens to bear upon us. Like us, it's like you're doing really good there, guys. It's time for us to call in your note.
Yeah. So,
And so in order to not have the sheriff come and grab us, we exited the business. We made money, of course, and we gained a tremendous amount of experience. And we were, of course, able to take that experience and move into other enterprises, which have also been for us profitable.
okay. Excellent. So, definitely going through that, you've seen just all sides of business. I know that, a big piece of your role was the sales and marketing side, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
So,
part of selling is, the sales department is basically getting out to the neighborhood, finding out what the community is about, who's in the community, making sure that you have people from the community work in the sales department, train them. What are we selling? What were we selling? We were selling an opportunity for folks to enrich their entertainment opportunity. That's basically what cable. Cable just widens your horizon to various entertainment aspects. That was a good thing. But in order to do that, there were several things that we had to do, not just in the marketing of the cable, but and it didn't just teach us how to go out and sell cable, but it taught us how to go out and sell anything. Once you understand what selling is about, then you understand, I could sell cheese to people who need cheese, because I know what cheese is all about. I know how to make it. I know how to grow it. I know how it's manufactured. So marketing is a great skill. One of the things that we had to do, I'm going to just go through these things, because is how do we get started with what were the first dollars that we raised? The first dollars we raised were our own money, and we didn't have much, but we used what we had to begin the process, to do the initial kinds of things, just to have meetings and make sure that everybody felt comfortable doing that. Then, of course, we asked, as we began to get a little more understanding of what it is we were doing, we were comfortable saying, well, we could ask some friends to maybe participate. Maybe, we got a couple of friends who lend us a few dollars, or who will invest a few dollars to get us moving forward some more. Now, that's an option if you do it, that you have to treat it like a business, a business loan. You can't just go to friends and family and say, lend me some money. We're going to do this great thing, and we're going to pay you back. We're going to make sure it benefits you too. No, it's got to be a business relationship, even with friends and family. You have to tell them, listen, this is what we're doing. This is how we're going to spend your money. This is what we think your return can be. And if you do that, you have a chance of getting the money and still maintaining friendship with your friends and family. Because, there's no guarantee that things are going to work out, but at least if they know up front what the situation is, then they're more than likely they will want to assist you. Then of course but other, you can get a personal loan. You can use your credit cards. Now, those are personal loans, and you're really betting on yourself when you use those kinds of resources. Now, everybody's probably heard of Spike Lee. Spike Lee did his first movie, She's Gotta Have It, and he did that all on credit cards. Now, he was really taking a big risk. I think, he was about almost $200,000 in debt on credit cards when he got the movie out, and then he couldn't get it distributed, so he had to run around and get it distributed by himself. But it worked out for him, because he believed in the process. He believed in what he was doing, and he knew his movie had merit. So he was willing to put that kind of a financial risk on himself and his friends and family.
So let me take a quick break here, if that's okay. Because definitely we've got Calvin here talking tonight, but not only that, he's going to be speaking at our conference coming up next Friday. So
yes,
we want to make sure everybody knows about the conference. So in case you don't know, our small annual conference, the Small Business Pro Power Conference, which is going to be on next Friday in Newark, New Jersey. So if you're in the area, definitely worth checking out. And what we do the night before the conference is have a networking session. So we have pre-conference networking, and that you're welcome to join us at. And then we've got the conference. So got a video to show you a little bit about the conference and who's there. So I'm going to show you that, and then we'll come back talking small business. Calvin Reed.
This event was a wow. Every panel, every speaker has had so much amazing content and good information to share.
This is a good day to put aside to come out and do some learning, but also make some great connections. The ones that I made were impactful.
Hi, I'm Andrew Frazier, masterpreneur and founder of Small Business Pro University. For more than 10 years, our events have directly generated tens of millions of dollars in revenue and financing for attendees. Join me at the Small Business Pro Power Conference on July 25th at NJPAC in Newark, New Jersey. To learn best practices, enjoy great networking, and gain useful knowledge, we will supercharge your day. The conference theme is business success in times of uncertainty. It begins with the Power Breakfast, sponsored by TD Bank. You don't want to miss our keynote speaker, Natalie Madeira-Cofield, CEO of AEO. She has been named one of the most powerful women in business by Entrepreneur magazine. There will be 2 breakout sessions following the Power Breakfast. Nikisha Wilson will facilitate a panel on financial management from A to Z, and Irvin Hughes will lead a 10X Growth Accelerator strategy session.
Hey everyone, Irv Hughes here with American Credit Assurance. Hey, this message is to invite you to join me at this summer's Power Conference. That's right, folks, I'm coming to see you. I'm going to do 2 things while I'm there. I'm going to show you how to grow your revenue and profits.
After that is the Power Lunch, sponsored by Verizon Business and keynoted by Calvin Reed, business owner and executive vice president of New Africa Development Corporation. He was a co-founder of Connection Communications Corporation, Newark's original cable franchise. There will also be 2 breakout sessions following the Power Lunch. I'll be facilitating a panel on financing your business faster and easier. And Jessica Spaulding, president and CEO of the Harlem Chocolate Factory, will discuss strategies for networking and marketing your business. She has been featured in Forbes Magazine, Entrepreneur.com, and the Kate Spade Foundation. And then we'll wrap things up with a happy hour for networking and socializing. I look forward to seeing you at the Small Business Pro Power Conference on July 25th in Newark, New Jersey. To learn more and register, visit www.sbprou.com/conference.
Great. Welcome back. Hopefully you got a chance to see the extent of the conference that's coming up next week. It's going to be really exciting, and definitely looking forward to you joining us. Excited about having you there, Calvin, to be able to share even more with other entrepreneurs and small business owners that can learn from you and as a result become more successful. So, we've got a couple questions from the chat. So the first one's there. What is the biggest challenge you faced when pitching to investors?
The biggest challenge you face when you were pitching to an investor is making certain that you understand what it is you want from that investor. Now, what does that mean? Of course you want money, but how do you get that money? How do you convince that individual or that entity that you are a venture that's worthy of their consideration and their resources? And in order to do that, you have to have a business plan, a solid business plan, and you have to understand and know every aspect of that business plan. You need to be able to read it, or you know it backwards and forward. So for instance, we had one potential investor, ask us about the churn rate of cable television. Now, when we first heard that term, we really didn't know what it meant. And that investor did not invest with us because we couldn't answer that question. Well, the churn rate was how many people would go on to subscribe in cable in 1 month, and how many people would you lose in a month. So we were able to find statistics based on how people use telephone services, how many folks come on average in using the telephone, and how many people go off using telephone, and what are the reasons for that. I mean, people churn because they move to another location. They might move out of town. Their circumstances financially might change. All those things cause churn. And those are things that you have to be able to answer, questions you have to be able to answer in order to pitch somebody about being able to put into people's homes a cable television network. So that's one simple thing. But other things like how will you, and a very basic thing was, how will you repay them their money? Because naturally, everybody who's investing wants to know, how you're going to be able to profit so that you can repay them. So you have to have a plan for that as well, and you have to have a timetable for which you're going to adhere to for repaying them. That takes some consideration. Some time that takes some consideration because you also have to know how much you're prepared to repay them. If somebody lends you $100, are you prepared to give them $200 back, or are you prepared only to give them $50 back? And you have to rationalize each one of those decisions with regard to the return on their investment. They have to feel comfortable that they're getting just for investing in you, they're getting an adequate return. And you can do that, but you have to do that within the constraints of your business plan and what you anticipate you're going to be able to grow as profits, and what you're going to need to maintain the business moving forward, and then also what you can afford to give to people as a return on that investment. I think that's pretty much answers that question. But if you have an additional follow-up question, I'll be happy to answer that too.
Great, great. So now, you know, definitely networking are key, but a business plan's key as well. Um, is the networking, is that more important? Is a solid business plan more important? Or
Well,
how do
no,
they
not I'm looking at the question myself on screen, and it's not there's not an either it's not an either or thing. Networking is equally important to a solid business plan. The business plan gives you credibility in the marketplace because it shows everyone that you know what you're doing, or at least you understand what it is you're attempting to do. Networking allows you to be amongst people who are in the industry and who are knowledgeable and who will get your name out there. For instance, one of the first things that we did once we started going after the cable franchise was we went to the cable television convention in Las Vegas. Everybody else came in on airplane. We came in on pack mules. The convention was in Las Vegas, and we actually flew, but we flew the Red Eye Express, and we stayed at what was the equivalent then of probably Hotel 6, but we were there, and at that convention, that first convention, we met Ted Turner. Ted Turner, as you know, was the father of CNN and Turner Network, the Turner Network systems, and so meeting him led us to some other opportunities for financing and also some other opportunities for doing some consultancies of our own for other folks who were trying to get franchises. But those kinds of things happened because we were involved in networking, and that networking was essential to us moving forward.
Okay. Excellent. So no, those are some key things.
Mm.
One of the things, I work with a lot of business owners on getting financing.
Mm.
And one of the things that I put together just to make it easier to understand how to get your financing faster and easier is sort of a process. And I'll just go through the process real quick. So really, to access capital, you need to pray for financing. You need to prepare yourself in your business. You need to research to find the right investors or lenders. You need to assemble your required information, and then you need to yield to the underwriters and analysts who are going to make the decision on whether you're financed. Definitely a big piece of your preparation was the business plan. There's all kinds of different organizations that finance you and all types of different financing that you can get.
Well, let me say this about this business plan real quick.
Okay.
Your business plan is an evolving document. It's not a stagnant document. Your business plan it's growing as your understanding of what it is you want to do grows. Then your business plan grows, because the more information you can impart through that plan, the better. And circumstances may make you change your business plan. For instance, if you're doing a business and you're thinking, well, I'm going to do this business as a nonprofit, and then you have to pivot and say, oh, I can't do it as a nonprofit, it's just not going to work. You have to be able to make that kind of adjustment with that plan so that you can still actualize your goal.
Okay, definitely. So it's got to be flexible and continuing to use it. A lot of people create a business plan and never use it.
But even not using your business plan, at least you have a goal in that business plan, that you're trying to achieve. And you may have to discard your business plan completely or pivot your business plan 180 degrees. That happens. But the goal is to sell peanuts if that's what you want to sell. At the end of the day, if it takes the pivot to get those peanuts sold, then and maybe you have to make peanut butter. You don't get peanuts, you get peanut butter, but you got something, and your goal was actualized in some way.
Mm-hmm. And I guess a big piece of it also is, how much did you learn while doing the plan? I mean, could you have done this business without doing the plan?
Yeah, I mean, if you're not listening to the people who you're speaking with about getting funds, about being in the business, if you're not constantly asking questions yourself, then you're not going to be successful. You have to be able to take advice. Some of it's going to be hard advice. Some things are not going to be things that you want to hear, but they're going to be necessary things that you're going to need in order to move forward. That's just the way that business works.
Okay. Great. So now you had partners in the process. And
yes.
How did that work out? Because a lot of times it can be challenging to keep a team together.
Well, you have to have a group. First of all, very few businesses are developed with just one individual. I mean, you may have an idea for a plan, but at some point you're going to need some help. And in our instance, we had 4 founding partners who were each committed to the process, and each brought some expertise to the project that lent itself to our success. One was an attorney. One was a businessman and had an MBA and understood about the machinations that are required for doing the MBA kinds of things. I was involved with marketing at Doubleday, and then we had Clarence Lilly. Clarence Lilly was actually the one who fermented the development of cable in Newark, because he was the one that brought the primary and preliminary information about the possibility of Newark cable to the table. And he, with Barry Washington, gathered us together and said, listen, this is something we can do. And then we all liked each other. We all respected each other. That's another thing. You have to have respect for one another. And then you have to be able to get along. And when you have everybody has an ego, everybody, and in order for you to succeed, you have to sometimes subjugate your ego to the will of the group in order for you to survive. And that's just, sometimes you'll say, I have a better idea than you. It's not better if it doesn't work. It's just an idea. And it doesn't mean that much if it's not going to mean that you're going to be able to move your project forward. So you got to kind of take your ego and keep it in your pocket so that you can understand and listen to what the group needs and make sure that that's always in your best interest and in their best interest is how you move forward.
Okay. So now let's see. We can also, if you look at it, you've got different types of financing through the process. You said your first, of course, was your own money. And then you looked at friends and family. And then you had the Embarking. Is that?
There are a number of ways to get financing in addition to just going to a bank, for instance. I mean, there are venture capitalists that are out there, and there are whole networks of venture capital people who you can find even on the internet, who are willing to look at your project and look at your business plan. And of course, they do that for. They don't look at your project and say, "Oh, I want your project. It's a wonderful project." They look at it because they see it as a potential for them to make money. And your goal in reaching out to a venture capitalist or any other person that's going to invest in your company is to convince them that not only is your idea worthy of their consideration, but it's also worthy of their finance, of their putting their money, in to invest in you. And that means you have to have a solid team, and you have to be able to get them to buy into your vision for how this thing is going to work. Now we have now a new journey. Clarence Lilly and I have decided that we would join together again to put together a project that we're calling the New Africa Development Corporation. And in New Africa, we're again trying to raise funds and convince people that our vision for restructuring a portion of the city of Newark is something that's viable and something that we can do. And to that end, we have a 25-unit senior citizens building that we're developing. We have another building on Blum Street. It's a 14-unit mixed use and moderate income building that we're developing. Then we have several other projects in the New Africa umbrella that we're proffering at the same time. But the first two will be the Senior Citizens Project. That's going to be on 15th Street. It's a 25-unit senior citizens building. And then on Blum Street will be a 14-unit property that we're developing. Both of those are exciting properties, and that's the first phase of the development of the New Africa venture. We're also looking forward to building a medical arts facility. We'd like to build a hotel and a conference center as part of a complex that we'd like to have developed in downtown Newark. It's exciting. It's not what I planned on doing initially. I thought we'd do one little project, but one little project evolved into a whole district. And I'm excited to be a part of it, and it keeps me young and alive. I can't hear you.
Definitely, once you have that entrepreneurial experience, it's hard to go back. And
no, you're right.
yeah.
I mean, it gets in your blood. I mean, it's plus once you understand how things can be done, you want to keep doing them. And with the New Africa project, we're helping to rebuild a section of Newark that's been abandoned for the most part. While everything else around the downtown areas and some stuff in around the airport and stuff like that, all that's being developed. This is the core pieces of the city that still are not being developed, and not only are they not being developed, but the development is not being done by folks who are Newarkers. The things that are being done for the most part in town, the big projects, are not the projects that are being headed by our people. And we want that to change as well. And that's one of the things that we're working very diligently to try to achieve.
Okay. No, I mean, those are some great projects, and looking forward to seeing them come to fruition. I think you're muted. Okay. Oh, go ahead. Okay, now I should be able to hear you. I think you were muted before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I think we're back on track with the hearing. Good.
Yeah. What's a show without technical difficulties?
Not a show. one of the things that I think that I wanted to mention too is that I mentioned venture capital as a possibility for financing, but there's also the Small Business Administration. The Small Business Administration is an entity that I think everybody should look into who's thinking about putting together a business, particularly because the dollars, if you have a good plan, a solid plan, the dollars are relatively easy to get, and the cost of the money is not that much, but they do require personal commitment to the project, in that they will have you sign over your firstborn in order to get those dollars. But if you have a plan that you think is viable, they will help you, and they will even assist you with the development of a business plan. They have consultants that they work with, normally on a volunteer basis, that will assist you in putting together a plan that will help you go before not just the SBA, but before other folks and possible funding entities to get dollars. So that's a resource that I think everybody should at least try to tap into. Another one that I think is an interesting one is the grants. There are a number of grants that are available to folks, and the grants are given by any number of entities in various professional situations. So there are grants that are given by foundations. There are grants that are given by business entities. There are grants that are given by unions. So you need to look up, when you're thinking about business, and particularly if you need money for startup, a grant is a good way to try to get access to startup dollars, so that you can begin to formulate your plan and get that together. So grants is a good way. And there are you can look up, there are volumes of grants. There are so many grants that you'll never be able to apply to all of them. But you need to know that there are grants out there, and that if you have a project that matches the grant entity, you may be able to apply to that entity and get a grant from them. So be on the lookout always for grants, because that's a fine way to get the money. Additionally, there are government dollars that are available as well. So don't poo-poo getting money from the government or from municipal entities, because or the county. The county has money, the cities have money. Now they always have some strings attached to their money, but it's money nonetheless, and it's often money that is inexpensive money, and sometimes it's in fact grant money. But and you can get, if they believe in your project, they will lend their expertise to assist you in trying to make the project work. So that's a source of money that you shouldn't poo-poo. You should take a look at it. And if you know some politicians, you should ask them, are there any dollars available for such and such? And perhaps there are, and they might make those dollars available to you. And then there's just the other entities, the banks and PSE&G and all these folks who you think are unapproachable. They all have foundations as well, and they give money, sometimes small grants, sometimes small loans, but they have money that they make available, particularly in the urban area, to individuals who are trying to do something to better the community. And if you think your project merits approaching one of them, then by all means you should reach out to them, because they do have money and they do spread it around. The other thing is, when you're talking about networking, who do you know? Who can you ask that has gotten some money from someone who might be able to recommend you to somebody and say, hey, listen, Calvin's got a project. And I think it's something that has some merit. You might want to consider it. That always is a good entree into being able to sit down with somebody and tell them what your idea, what your plan is, how you think your deal is going to be a deal that's going to merit everybody and yourself as well.
Excellent. So, definitely covered a lot. We're getting up close to the hour, but one thing I wanted to ask about, because you sort of mentioned a little bit of it, is many times, like, how hard was it to get the first investor?
How hard was it to get what?
Your first investor, and how much did that impact getting additional investors?
How hard was it? Well, it was how hard was it getting the first? It was so hard, I didn't think it was ever going to happen. That's how hard that was. I mean, you have to understand that at the time, cable television was the AI, the artificial intelligence of the time. It was like, wow, you're going to be able to, give people, they had 3 channels, CBS, NBC, and ABC. And now you're going to be able to give them 30 or 40 channels of TV. Wow, what an innovation, right? But we had a couple of, obstacles that we had to overcome. And one of which, of course, was, not only were we minorities, but we also had never done it ourselves before. The only thing that we had that worked to us in that instance was that nobody else had done it either. So, and as a matter of fact, there weren't a lot of folks who were seeking franchises at the time because a lot of folks didn't know what a franchise was or what it could potentially be. We had done our research. We knew what the potential was, and we were able to, take advantage of that, and in fact, win a few franchises for ourselves, which was good. So how hard it was to get the first piece of money? Very hard. But again, we stuck to the process. We stuck to the plan, and we worked the plan, and eventually, you say if they throw enough stuff up against the wall, something's going to stick. And eventually it did stick, and it stuck with us through the MESBIC. And the MESBIC that we got our first funding from was a MESBIC called CENTCOM out of Washington, D.C. Herb Wilkins and Bob Taylor. Great guys.
Excellent. Okay. And then from there, it was easier to get financing.
Yeah, it was. Well, they brought the CENTCOM, the MESBIC network to bear. So they put in the first maybe $100,000, and they got some other MESBICs to put in another, $200,000. So that gave us the kind of the seed money that we needed to do the preliminary things we had to do, like strand mapping, et cetera, so that we could, actually begin to build a cable system, and also we were able to finally stop eating potato chips and maybe get a hamburger from time to time.
Right. Stepping up in the world.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Well, one of the big challenges with a show like this is when we have like amazing guests, an hour just isn't enough time. But people can only hang out for so long. But before we let you go, definitely want to have you share 3 key things that people should take away from what we talked about tonight, because we talked about a lot of valuable information and experience and knowledge that you've gained. But many times people can't remember more than 3 things. So we want to make it simple for them. What should they take away from what we talked about tonight? So if you could take a sec to think about it, and I'm going to share a little bit of information about the upcoming events. And then we'll come back with you. And if you can share those, that would be great. So, just wanted to reiterate, next week is our Power Week. We've got our Small Business Pro Power Conference next week in Newark, New Jersey. And if you're in the area, hopefully you can join us. If you're not in the area, it still might be worth coming out and joining us, because it's going to be an amazing conference. You can also get a chance to actually meet Calvin in person, because he's going to be speaking at the lunch. So just a quick highlight of our speakers. Calvin's going to be the keynote at lunch. For during the day, for the breakfast, we've got Natalie Cofield, CEO of AEO, an organization that advocates and does research on small business. And we also have several breakout sessions during the day. So you're welcome to join us for those as well. So it's going to be a whole full day of great networking, great learning, great information. And if you want to know how to get there, information's in the chat. And also the night before, if you can't come during the day, you may want to come to our networking event the night before. It's our Power Network event. And here's a quick video just to give you an idea what it's going to be like.
Join us for the Power Network event at Makerhoods in the Kruger Mansion in Newark, New Jersey on Thursday, July 24th. Meet with like-minded entrepreneurs in a relaxed environment to chat, connect, and collaborate. I'm Andrew Frazier. Please join me at our Power Network event, and I look forward to introducing you to our members and friends.
Glad to host your network event here at the Kruger Scott Mansion. Thought I'd give you just a little bit of background. The entire Makerhoods campus here is a unique space here in Newark that encourages entrepreneurship at all levels. Of course, it's anchored by the Kruger Scott Mansion, a fantastic 1835 iconic building here in Newark. And we look forward to hosting you and your team here and sharing thoughts and ideas about how to help entrepreneurs grow and thrive.
To learn more and register, visit www.sbpru.com/power-network today.
All right. Good evening. Hi, it's Andrew Frazier here, hanging out with Calvin Reed, and we're talking small business. Tonight's show was really talking about his entrepreneurial journey, really getting venture financing for a venture that he and his team of friends really pulled together and it changed, made a huge difference in the city of Newark and just in the industry. So, Calvin, we talked about a whole bunch of great stuff tonight, but if you were going to say, what are the 3 key things people should take away from tonight, what would you say?
Well, I think the first thing you should really try to, grasp is the value and the need to have a solid business plan. I can't say enough how much that means, because it says so much about you, and it convinces people that you have not only a dream, but you have a plan for actualizing that dream. Business plan. The other thing is, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to use every resource at your disposal to try to get information for and get the ability to grow assets to actualize that goal. So you want to be able to use the resources that are around you to make your dream come true. Ask everybody that you know that might have any understanding of what it is you're trying to do about that. Say you're trying to become a mechanic. You want to know everything that could be known be learned about how to be a mechanic. Because that's what you want to do. You want to open a shop. You got to know everything that's going to possibly go into that shop. You got to know that. Then I think third and most importantly, I would say is you have to have determination. You have to be committed to the process. You have to understand that it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be fulfilling when in fact you're able to actualize that goal that you've set. So do that. Be determined. Utilize the resources that are around you, and have a plan. Have a plan. I think if you take that away from this evening's session, you will have taken a lot, and we didn't charge you any tuition.
Okay. Well, it's not too late to charge.
We accept donations.
Right. And you can register for the conference.
That'll be a good thing.
So you can learn more. But no, this is great. I mean, definitely a solid business plan is key. I've worked with so many business owners who don't have a business plan, or don't have a complete business plan, or don't have a current business plan. And you're only doing yourself a disservice. And you're not going to achieve the level of success that you could potentially achieve with your business.
And remember to update it constantly.
Yep, that's right. It does need to be a living document. So that's cool. Number 2, ask questions, gain information, continually learn, and because there's no end to how much learning you could and should have. So that's cool. And then determination. It took you 3 years before you opened, and then how long did it take you before profitability?
Fortunately, we became profitable almost immediately, because the initial enthusiasm for getting cable was so great that we weren't really selling the product. We were taking orders. So as soon as we had said cable was available in a particular neighborhood, everybody couldn't wait to sign up. Now getting them to pay was another thing, but they did sign up initially for the service.
Okay, excellent. Well, this has been great. Definitely appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. You shared a lot of valuable insights, and definitely great feedback and questions from the audience. So, Calvin, anything you want to share before we close out?
Well, I would just say that, as I look back on, what has been a long and successful career that's continuing, as I move forward, I say, you have one asset that stays consistent, and that's yourself. If you believe in yourself and you believe that you can accomplish the things that you want to accomplish, you will achieve those things, and you will accomplish what it is you want to achieve. So just trust yourself, trust your instinct, and go forward with God.
Okay. Great way to close it out. So thanks again. If you can hold out for a minute while I close things out, that would be great. So let's see. So, once again, definitely appreciate everybody tuning in, your comments, your questions. Definitely Calvin, it was great talking to Calvin this evening, and, looking forward to seeing him at the conference as well. Let me just give you a quick update. Each week we're almost at 5 years of Leadership Live at 8:05. So our 5-year celebration is going to be on September 30th. So put that on your calendar. We got some exciting things planned for that evening as well. Next week, our featured guest for the live stream is actually going to be our other Power Breakfast speaker, Natalie Madeira Cofield. And we're going to talk about what can you do in this moment. You know, definitely, the business environment's always changing, but even more so in this moment. So what can you do and what should you do? So look forward to talking with her next week as well. So, once again, appreciate you tuning in. And always remember, at the end of the day, the more that you know, the faster and more successfully your business is going to grow.
Thank you for listening to Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbpru.com. Thank you for listening to Leadership Live at 8:05.